Hello, and welcome to another episode of LSVT Global's podcast, Think Big and Loud, where we share inspiring stories, expert insights, and engaging conversations, all designed to empower and uplift the lives of individuals with neurological conditions and those who love and support them. My name is Beth Peterson, and I'll be your host for the show. And today we have a special guest, Adrienne Singletary, and she's a trailblazing corporate speech language pathologist, or SLP, as I'll refer to in the episode. And she's the founder of Transcendent Accents. She has a passion for helping professionals unlock their full communication potential and has made her mark in the dynamic world of corporate speech therapy and executive communication coaching. She draws from her own journey overcoming burnout as a school-based SLP and now empowers both clients and fellow clinicians to reimagine what's possible beyond traditional therapy settings, bridging speech science with business success and inspiring the next generation of SLP entrepreneurs. So, Adrienne, we're excited to have you and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for your time. I honestly am excited about this.
Oh, good. Well, and I thought it would be helpful if you could just start by sharing a bit about your journey from being a school-based SLP to now having founded Transcendent Accents and really what sparked that move into the corporate world.
Well, like you said, I was burnt out as a school-based SLP. When I was in graduate school and even undergrad, I really had a passion for speech pathology. And once I started working in the field, like as a full-time employee working at a school, the burnout is it's just overwhelming. And I didn't know what else I wanted to do. Some of my colleagues and friends that worked in the medical setting, rehab setting, they were burnout as well. So I didn't know exactly where to transfer. We're kind of always told to, work in schools or work in a hospital setting or medical setting. And I just didn't know where I wanted to be. I done some training for accent modification and really liked that, but didn't really push that. Now I do that now also with my business. But a parent just kept telling me for 2 years, like, I wish I had someone who could help me with my speech. And I honestly just told her, like, just Google a speech therapist that can do that. And when I saw her months later, she, approached me and said, I looked for someone, couldn't find anyone. I said, I'll Google for you. Maybe you're not using the right, terminology. I couldn't find anyone. So I let the parent know I would work with them on the side, and I loved it. Like, it was just a breath of fresh air. And I tell everyone, it fell in my lap. And the more I thought about it, explored it, kind of asked around, it was, oh, you're just kind of helping with someone. And then my former CF supervisor, who I still kept in contact with and still do, she was like, oh, that's corporate speech therapy. And I started trying to research it and couldn't find a lot of details about it. But what I did find was that what I was doing was corporate speech therapy. So it just became something I loved doing. I was, like I said, I was burned out in the schools, and I started just kind of doing it on the side. And it's just been a whirlwind since. It's been kind of like my saving grace in speech pathology, where I'm still able to use my degree and information and knowledge that I know to assist other adults that want to work on their communication skills. Just as that mom said, she just wanted someone to help her with her communication skills. And that's what we're trained to do. We're just only kind of encouraged to think of it in a traditional setting. So it's an opportunity to do something non-traditional and still use your knowledge. And I love it. Love it,
Oh,
love it, love it.
that's so great. What's neat. So yeah, it seems like you thought, and I would think that you just Google and you'll find someone. So it sounds like you really found that it could be a niche area if
Yes,
she couldn't just find one and you couldn't either. So
yes,
that's great. Your passion met a need. So that's really neat.
absolutely. I love how you just worded that. Absolutely, yes.
Well, and for listeners who might be new to the concept, can you talk to us a little bit about what exactly corporate speech therapy is and how it does differ from some of those more traditional speech therapy settings?
So sure, it is customized sessions designed to address those high impact communication challenges that are frequently encountered in both personal and corporate settings. As SLPs or speech language pathologists, we can identify those performance areas and implement the data informed strategies that we already know to enhance their clarity, vocal tone, executive presence, and then that drives improvements in someone's professional communication outcomes and their personal lives as well. It's a great opportunity. An easy way to say it is you're working with quote unquote typical adults that just want to enhance their communication skills from a personal level or even just a business level being in the workplace. But it's an opportunity to work with adults on their communication skills in a totally different way that is more based on their personal needs.
So then do you kind of see a whole spectrum of more focus on personal needs all the way through, top level CEOs of a company wanting to improve?
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely. You have adults that want to interview for jobs, but they
mm,
don't like to interview. Think about the children that you work with that have goals for WH questions. Believe it or not, a lot of adults can't answer questions either, or they'll
mhm,
start the question, answering the question, and then they'll veer off someplace else. So think about those individuals that just want to get out there and interview, to your CEOs and individuals at C-suite level that also need to do presentations, that also need to think about pacing, that also are in high stake areas within their employment, and they just need some assistance with their communication. So it's a broad spectrum of different things you can do in corporate speech therapy working with adults.
mhm. Well, and you might have kind of addressed my next question was going to be what are some of the most common communication challenges that you see among professionals and executives?
So presentation skills, interviewing skills, believe it or not, you do have adults that have difficulty with articulation.
Mm,
That's a big thing now that we are more of a virtual world and there's such a thing as virtual um, etiquette, etiquette that's
mhm,
out there. And a lot of individuals just don't understand that etiquette or the communication skills that go along with speaking and presenting from a virtual option. You have the individuals that want to do fireside chats, TED Talks. They want to communicate in front of a big audience, but are terrified to
mm,
do that. So you see a little bit of everything, but I think for what I kind of focus on, I'm working on the presentation skills. Now I'm doing trainings for neurodiversity, thinking about the workplace and accommodations that companies and organizations need to have in place.
mm,
And really, presentation skills, that's a big one.
mm,
That is always just something that your C-suite level executives really want to think about also. But I see a little bit of everything, but those are my key areas that I mostly see.
mhm. Well, and can you share a memorable success story where your coaching made a transformative difference for a client?
Absolutely. So, if you are, depending on how old you are, if you are familiar with the girls group Destiny's Child, Beyonce,
Mhm,
Kelly, Michelle,
mhm.
one of my clients actually had an opportunity to interview Michelle Williams and talking
Cool.
about her book and her struggles with mental health.
Okay.
And in preparing for this interview with Michelle, because Michelle has been interviewed by people from everywhere, individuals from everywhere, all over the globe. And
Mhm,
this client really wanted to have these great communication skills because not only was she interviewing Michelle, but she was going to be interviewing Michelle in front of a huge audience.
mm,
And all eyes were going to be on her. And in speaking with Michelle and preparing, she wanted to make sure she was at the top of her game for this interview. I was her corporate speech pathologist to help prepare her for that. And it was just an amazing experience. My client also allowed me to meet Michelle, and she introduced me to Michelle as she said, "This is Adrienne, my corporate speech pathologist." And Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. Oh, Samantha did a great job interviewing me." And it blew my
wow.
mind that
Yeah.
here, what I'm doing, this person entrusted me to assist them with interviewing a
Mhm,
global icon. And that was
mhm,
just amazing to me.
mhm. That's cool. Yes, you're really helping people with big moments in their life to get them prepared and ready on the big stage like that. That's really
A
neat.
huge stage. Yes, absolutely.
Well, cool. And what have been some of the most rewarding and maybe even surprising aspects of
Ooh.
being an entrepreneur in the SLP world?
Okay, so one of the most rewarding aspects, I think, of being a entrepreneur in this space is witnessing real transformation in professionals who don't even really realize how much their communication style impacts their confidence or even their leadership presence.
Hmm.
So when I work with executives, even athletes, corporate teams, I can see someone finally nailing a presentation they were anxious about, or
Mhm.
if a company has to do a merger and everybody on the team is all hands on deck, everybody has to present. Is finding working with those individuals to help find their authentic voice in those high stake conversations. So that's a moment, those are moments of impact that stick with me. It's really rewarding to see in clients embrace their tools, like thinking about pacing, the strategies we use for fluency, how that ties into helping adults that need some assistance with their breathing exercises, thinking about their tone, and even grammar in a different sense of empowerment also. These aren't really just tips, they're tools that can help and shift people to show up in boardrooms, on stages, and even in interviews. I think what has been a surprise for me is how much advocacy and education that still has to happen. Now,
Mm.
that's something I can't change by myself, but corporate leaders often don't even know the type of services that exist that we can provide as speech
Mhm.
pathologists. So I find that it deeply ties into what we do and how we can assist with leadership development and neurodiversity inclusion, because a lot of companies and organizations just don't know how to support some of their employees
Mm.
and wanting to ensure there's an inclusive environment.
Mhm.
So that's my work and why I do my work, but it doesn't matter if it's through one-on-one coaching, team trainings, it's always some level of storytelling that goes in. So that shows up when we shift how we speak, listen, and show up. It's just a different type of way of assisting adults that I think sometimes that is the most rewarding compared
Mhm.
to working in a traditional setting.
Mhm. That's really neat. So yeah, you've had a lot of cool experiences with that. And so I didn't really think about the advocacy part of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said in the beginning, you're not able to find people in this field. And so more people need to know about it so that they can share it with their own organization and employees.
Yes, absolutely. And I think with more companies now thinking about how to be inclusive,
Hmm.
as speech pathologists, we're trained to do that. Think about the children that you work with that are having some difficulty in the accommodations that you may suggest for a child.
Hmm.
Adults are struggling with that even in the workplace, but companies don't know how to best support them. So as a
Hmm.
speech pathologist, we're trained to do it and provide these trainings. Companies just don't know that we can come in and do that, but we can and
Hmm.
we should. We're the
Hmm.
biggest, like we're a huge part of advocating for adults and children.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, and then I know you also are helping fellow SLPs to kind of reimagine their own roles and expand what they do. So, how do you help fellow clinicians expand their impact beyond more traditional therapy settings?
So I'm really passionate about helping the SLPs realize that our skill set is not just limited to a therapy room, a school setting, or a medical setting. Um, I provide a mentorship program where I help fellow SLP business owners get clear on what they want to create, whether if it's a niche or service like corporate speech therapy, or even something more unconventional that's not within that box of traditional settings. Because I feel like as SLPs, we're not encouraged to always think outside the box.
Mhm.
So I'm the SLP that always will say, hey, if you love this, you can tie it this way into corporate speech therapy. You don't have to work in this traditional setting. Even if you decide to do this on the side, just know the opportunities are there. Always
Mhm.
encouraging SLPs to think differently and take your core skill set and your knowledge and apply it to working with companies, brands, and organizations. I think a lot of SLPs, we have the expertise, but we don't always have the vision or the tools to make it outside the traditional models. And that's where I want to come in to show them how their clinical background can be like a launching pad for entrepreneurship, consulting, and whatever else you may want to do. It doesn't have to be confined to, schools or a medical setting.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's great, and it's neat because you've gone through that experience. So I feel like the way you just said, you took a client on the side and then realized, oh, this is a passion of mine. I have the
Yes.
skills. And so I think just having that experience also gives you so much credibility that, hey, I've been through this and I did it and I'm here to help you. So that's really neat that you're
Yeah.
expanding it and mentoring other SLPs.
Absolutely. I want individuals to see. I think what I didn't have years ago was someone to encourage me to think
Mhm.
outside the box, which is why I told that mom, just Google a
Yeah.
speech therapist that can help you with what you need. And she couldn't find anyone. I couldn't
Mhm.
find anyone. But in working with her, I loved it and found
Mhm.
like a passion there. But I want other SLPs to understand there's so much that you can do when
Mhm.
you just decide to just open your mind and see what else is out there. There's
Mhm.
I'm just a firm believer in that now. We're not trees. You can get up and move and go where you feel, like you can grow and to be
Mhm.
nurtured. I think that's just
Mhm.
important.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I like that metaphor there. And are there any, well, I guess you just kind of touched on it, but were there any resources, communities, or mentors that have been especially influential on your journey? So I think in the beginning it was no, but has that expanded as you've gone deeper into it?
Absolutely. One of the most impactful influences in my journey has been my own personal mentor, who is not a speech pathologist,
Mm.
who has pushed me to think in different ways in terms of business, how to do marketing, how to do advertising. I think in our field, we only think about marketing and advertising in a specific way. Whereas when you're doing something different, kind of like what I'm doing, you have to be able to think outside the box in terms of how you get your name or your company out
Mhm.
there. Um, so just having a mentor who was not within the field has just been a game changer. I encourage all
Mhm.
SLPs now, if you're a business owner, you should definitely have a mentor who is not a speech pathologist. It's great to have a SLP that can be a mentor that is a speech pathologist. That's wonderful. But someone who can look at your business from a totally different angle and view allows you to think about things at a different angle and viewpoint also. That has been a game changer for my business personally. Something with my mentorship program that I have myself is that I want to encourage SLPs to think about having their own signature program or offering. So if you're thinking about doing corporate speech therapy or something different, have a signature program where you are known as the person, as the expert with that topic, because you'll have companies, brands, or individuals that will come to you specifically for that. That is
Mhm.
something I help SLPs to really think about in terms of exploring what their niches are. But I think
Mhm.
having a community or a mentor for me has just been a game changer. My community now looks a little different in terms of how I network. So networking has been a something huge in my journey. Also, I can't
Mhm.
stress it enough is that it's great to network and meet other individuals that are like-minded, but also that think a little different. So that way you can bring different
Mhm.
viewpoints to your business also.
Mhm. With networking, are you networking with SLPs or business owners, or like what type of networking do you focus on?
I do both, believe it or
Mm.
not. I'm a firm believer in it's not sometimes what you know, it's who you know.
Mhm.
That has been a game changer, being that I network with individuals that are not speech pathologists. They'll put me in touch with other individuals to say, you need to speak to this person at this brand because they will definitely need you to come in and do a training. Or I know someone that can benefit from your services just based
Mhm.
on what you've told me about what you do. So I think it's for me personally, I have a little bit of both. I do a lot of networking when I go to different conferences for speech pathology. And then I do a lot of networking when I go to networking events for big companies or different conferences that have nothing to do with speech pathology. So I do a little bit of both. I can't say
Mhm.
that one is better than the other, but it's great to make sure that you're networking with a little bit of everyone. Because like I
Mhm.
said, it's not so much sometimes what you know, it's who you know sometimes.
Mhm. It's exciting. I feel like you get to do a lot of different things within your kind of scope of work. Like you see
Oh
a lot
God.
of different types of people, a lot of different types of networking and events. So I bet you,
Yes.
yeah, you have
I
an exciting
never
life.
Yes, I never would have thought, even when I started working and doing corporate speech therapy, I never thought the opportunities I've been exposed to, I never thought back then that I would be where I am now. I thought I was just going to see a couple of adults here and there, but now if I'm working with an athlete, I never thought I'd work with an athlete.
Yeah.
Um, just never thought that. I never thought I'd have an opportunity to work with reality TV personalities. I
Yeah.
never thought that. I just never thought that would be an option to do anything like that, but the opportunities are there. It's just it's just a different way of thinking about how to do
Mhm.
this.
Yeah. Oh, it's really neat. It's exciting to think about.
Thank
Um,
you.
what trends or changes do you see on the horizon for corporate speech therapy and communication coaching?
Okay, so this is a great question because I see a major shift happening where more people and companies are starting to see where communication is finally being recognized as a leadership skill and not just a soft skill. It is a soft skill, but it's a leadership skill too. Companies are realizing when their employees or leaders don't have great communication skills, there's money that's lost and opportunities that are lost also. So that's why companies are really pushing for better communication skills. I know for me, in my past, I've worked for some leaders that just did not have great communication skills. I think we all have probably. But I'm starting to see that it's being recognized now as a leadership skill. And companies are
Mhm.
now realizing that their teams need to speak, listen, and present directly for business outcomes because that's how companies gain money. And the
Mhm.
term you got to pay to play, you got to make sure that you're investing in your employees and your leaders also and their communications skills. So there's growing awareness around inclusive communication, supporting neurodiverse professionals. That's a really big thing now. I think more speech pathologists should be thinking about working with companies and providing some training there. Multilingual speakers and like leaders who want to communicate more authentically without having to really code switch or dilute who they are.
Mhm.
So I'm starting to see a rise in more virtual training and coaching, like I said before, because these are areas where you can expand access and flexibility for clients and professionals. So when you are able to do virtual sessions or virtual opportunities for meetings, that means you have more people that can participate, cuts down the cost of paying for a flight or a hotel where you can do everything virtually.
Mhm.
Companies now have to think about their overhead because they do have more employees that are working from home, but they still need to make sure they're investing in those communication skills from a virtual
Mhm.
standpoint also. So I'm
Mhm.
seeing the big changes and shifts that are happening and what communication looks like in the workplace.
Mhm. That's neat. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it as a leadership skill. Communication is a leadership skill. That's really a good way to think about it, and I feel like it's eye-opening. But it is important. You're right. It does show that you have leadership if you can communicate effectively. So
Absolutely.
that's yeah, that's a great. So thanks for sharing that. And then what would you say your hopes are for the next generation of speech pathology entrepreneurs, and how do you see your role in shaping their future?
So, my hope is that the next generation of SLP entrepreneurs feel empowered to lead with ideas and not just their credentials. I think it's great when you have your credentials, but you need to lead with your ideas and being able to take those ideas and put them out there so they become reality. I want them to know that they don't have to wait for permission to create something that aligns with their values and strengths, whether it's corporate, wellness, media, or tech. I just met a speech pathologist, and the more she talked about what she wanted to do, I said, "You're more the corporate aspects in the wellness, mindfulness component." And it was life changing for her. It was a light bulb that came on. I'm like, we can be in that space too. This is where you take that idea and now make it into reality. There's room for us in so many spaces. We're
Mhm.
just not taught to think like that.
Mhm.
Through my mentorship and my programs, and even the two courses that I teach, I think it's important that we're visible in the many spaces. I think that's something I want for speech pathologists that are coming up now is that to be visible in spaces. You're meant to be there. You can run circles around a lot of people with the knowledge and information that you have.
Mhm.
I think about being in certain spaces where if there's a medical doctor, I can talk about the cranial nerves too, just like another doctor can. Like I said,
Mhm.
you can kind of run circles around a lot of people based on the knowledge and information that we
Mhm.
have. So I want speech pathologists that are new or upcoming. I really want them to blend their clinical knowledge, and I want them to blend it with their creativity, purpose, and strategies. Also, there's so much
Mhm.
that we can do, and I want them to think outside the box. Like I will
Mhm.
always encourage that. Think outside the box and step into whatever it is, but step into it with confidence because you are needed in so many different places.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that theme that you're sharing with us today, that outside the box thinking. I feel
Oh,
like you're such a good positive role model to get people to
thank
really
you.
kind of chase their dreams and know that it's possible and that they don't have to be confined to what they think they do. So that's
Yes.
really, yeah, you're a great example of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for our listeners out there, whether we might have clinicians or business leaders or people who are just curious to hear from you, what's one practical tip that you think people can use to improve their communication today?
Okay. One that comes to mind is pause with a purpose.
Hmm.
So whether you're presenting or answering a tough question or just trying to organize your own thoughts, don't be afraid of the silence.
Hmm.
A well placed pause helps you sound more confident, gives your listener time to absorb what you're saying and process what you're saying. We talk about processing skills as speech pathologists, but a pause and it gives you a chance to take a breath and stay grounded. It's a
Mhm.
simple shift, something simple you can do, but it can change how your message is perceived by others.
Oh, that's great. And that's easy to remember, that pause with the purpose. So I'm going to have to
Yes,
try that on the podcast. You'll have to
I
watch more
agree.
episodes and see if I integrate it.
I will definitely check on you then.
Okay, good. And then, so I know you do a lot. And so um, I guess just how can people connect with you? So if they're interested either in the corporate side of things for that corporate communication, or maybe we have some SLP listeners who are interested in the mentoring aspect that you do. How do people find out about you and the services you offer?
They can, of course, connect with me on Instagram, transcendent_accents. They can also visit my website at transcendentaccents.com. If they're a professional looking to refine how they show up at work, if they're an SLP interested in stepping into this space, I want to connect. I'm very open. I tell everyone I work with, even if you're in my courses or if I meet you at a conference, I do not gatekeep. So I want to have conversations with you. I do offer virtual one-on-one coaching, team trainings, mentorship through my programs. The two courses that I teach, you can find them online. One is called the SLP Dropout Recipe. The name is very interesting because in that course, it's a business course where I'm giving all that you need for the recipe to be successful as a corporate speech pathologist. So all the ingredients that you possibly don't know, I'm going to give that to you as a business owner. And then I also teach the corporate SLP 101 course. This is a foundational course for speech pathologists that don't know anything about corporate speech pathology, but want to know more about it. The corporate SLP 101 course is where you can find me as well. I'm currently teaching both courses, so they are full at the moment, but I'll start those courses back up in upcoming months. But you can always be on the email list for both of those. And if you're unsure where to start, reach out to me. A conversation can open a lot, and I am open to a conversation.
Mhm. Oh, that's great. Well, and it sounds like, so you're based in North Carolina, but you do a lot virtually too. So it's not
Yeah,
limited to just people that live near you.
I'm all over. I have global clients. I tell
Okay.
everyone like the hardest part sometimes is the time difference, but I am a global brand or a global speech pathologist. I see
Mhm.
people from all over the world.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Well, and then before I wrap up into the credits, is there anything else that you wanted to share about, your journey or what you're currently doing?
I want the most important thing, if I don't stress this or have not stressed this enough, is as speech pathologists, know your worth.
Mm.
And you bring a lot to the table. You deserve to be in every room. Doesn't matter if it's a boardroom, classroom, hospital, doesn't matter. You are desired and needed everywhere. You are definitely desired and needed in corporate settings. Companies and organizations, brands, they want us. They just don't know where to find us. I will tell anyone, if you look on LinkedIn, individuals that do communication coaching for businesses, these individuals don't have a background in speech pathology. You
Mm.
can look at where they've gone to school, what their degrees are in. They do not have a degree in speech language pathology, and they don't know the science. So my bachelor's degree is in communication sciences and disorders. These individuals do not have degrees in the science component. They possibly have a degree in advertising, marketing, but they don't really understand how communication works, how it starts, and like I said, the science behind it. So know that you are needed in all spaces and you deserve to be there. You are not a tree. You can get up and move and go where you feel that you can grow and be nurtured. Just remember that. Don't stick with the burnout if you don't have to.
Mm.
I am living proof that there are opportunities out there and you can charge what you want to charge.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think those were some great last words to really empower the speech pathologists in the audience. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with them.
Thank you. Happy to.
And I'm going to go ahead and close with some credits to make sure we're giving credit where it's due. So, again, a big thank you to you, Adrienne, for sharing your time and wisdom with us. In the show notes, I'll put her website and then the Instagram page so that you can connect with her. The theme song that you're hearing for our podcast is called Think Loud for Parkinson's by Kindred Spirit and Leo Sayer. That's a song and video inspired by LSVT Loud speech treatment, and it's developed to raise awareness for Parkinson's worldwide. It's available for download and streaming on all major music platforms, and proceeds benefit the UK charity Cure Parkinson's. I want to make sure we thank our production team that helps make the podcast possible. That's CS Design Studios. And to learn about LSVT Loud speech therapy or LSVT Big physical or occupational therapy, you can visit lsvtglobal.com. And we encourage you to click below to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so that you never miss an episode. And we look forward to thinking big and loud with you again next time. Thank you.